Prevention is one thing, and once you have cancer, then they become a therapy, different issue.
Right.
From
I,
prevention point of view, you have to know why it happens. Therapeutic is now you have to know how you can kill cancer cell without killing the normal cell.
right. Well, I've got another story I want to share with you that I think illustrates that very point. In this case, the first one we heard, the client, the patient, took chemotherapy along with your formula the entire time and went through many rounds of chemo, many rounds of radiation. This story is going to be a little bit different because you'll hear it in her story that she had a real bad reaction initially, and that changed the course of her choices after that, from that point on. So there's no explanation as to why she had a bad reaction. There's nothing said. All we know is her version of it. And I can only say at this point, just for everyone's benefit, she wishes to remain anonymous. So that's why she's not sharing a story. I'm not telling the name. And all we have is AI reading the story. So we just have an AI voice reading the story.
That's
all right.
fine.
So if you can't hear me, if you can't hear the story, then someone stop me and then I'll try to start it up again. Okay. But it's going to take about 4 minutes or so,
Sure.
again, because AI is doing the reading. And I didn't want her to leave out any of the details either, Dr. Prasad. So I'm going to send this one to you because I think this is one we can gather up the data also and make it into an observational study. Okay.
My experience with breast cancer. A friend of mine was diagnosed with breast cancer shortly before I was scheduled to go in for my annual physical checkup. Due to my very busy schedule, I would have typically delayed my annual exam since I felt well. I went in for the mammogram and had to wait longer than usual to get the results. I had felt what I thought was simply breast tissue or muscular tissue in my breast. It didn't feel like what I imagined a lump in the breast would feel like. So, I mentioned this to the sonographer who would be performing the mammogram. Unfortunately, this did turn out to be a cause for concern for the radiologist. He sat down and explained to me that he suspected I had breast cancer. He recommended a biopsy and a breast MRI, which I did get. To my surprise, the ultrasound and breast MRI confirmed the radiologist's suspicions. Next, I had a biopsy done. So, about 2 weeks later from the date of the mammogram, it was officially confirmed that I had an aggressive type of breast cancer, invasive ductal carcinoma, grade 3, triple positive for estrogen, progesterone, and the HER2 protein. I was stunned since I felt well and had spent thousands of dollars trying to eat healthy, organic foods. Afterward, I was referred to an oncologist and assigned a breast navigator. I had many questions for each one. Their solution to my health crisis was the conventional approach, surgery, 12 to 19 rounds of chemotherapy, followed by radiation. I didn't like any of these options. A family member encouraged me to seek a second opinion. The second oncologist recommended chemo first and then surgery afterward and indicated that the cancer was very aggressive and had already begun to spread. So, I finally consented to take chemo treatments with the hopes of buying time to try a natural approach. Taking chemo was a disaster. I came near to death after receiving the first round of chemo for only about 30 seconds to 1 minute. I couldn't breathe. My lungs were rapidly filling up with fluid and my heart was as if it were going to stop beating. I truly felt as if I was drowning in water, but I was only sitting in a chair while receiving chemotherapy. I tried to get up from the chair to call for help, but I couldn't get up quickly enough. A family member who had accompanied me, fortunately, ran to get the nurse who had administered the chemo. She issued some kind of alert to notify the doctor on duty, and staff came in droves to assist with this crisis. She pumped me with a huge dose of a drug to try to quickly reverse the effects of chemotherapy. Fortunately, I was able to breathe again and the fluid in my lungs seemed to dissipate. For 2 weeks, I was affected by the decision to take chemotherapy. I was in bed for about 2 weeks. I struggled to get up or to walk about and had great pain throughout my body. The pain was excruciating. Nothing I took would stop the pain. I prayed earnestly for help. And, finally, relief did come. A family member gave me water with an electrolyte powder mixed in it. Eventually, after much prayer, I went off to sleep and later woke up feeling somewhat better. I resolved in my heart that I would never, ever take chemo again, even if I had to die. This decision angered the doctors. However, I was determined not to repeat the horrible experience I had with taking chemo. 2 dear friends spoke with a relative of mine about micro daily and how it had proven helpful to many individuals with serious illnesses. Since I was determined not to go the conventional route of receiving chemo, I decided that doing something would be better than doing nothing. I began to go on a regimen of 27 EMF capsules each day, 9 in the morning with breakfast, 9 at lunchtime with food, and 9 in the evening with food. Although I refused to continue with the conventional way of treating breast cancer, with surgery, chemo, and radiation, I did want an oncologist to continue to monitor me over the months to advise me on the rate of the spread of aggressive cancer. So, several months later, I went to a new oncologist who decided to get a baseline of how much the cancer had progressed. He recommended that I, at a minimum, go and talk with a surgeon about my diagnosis and have a PET scan performed. During all of this time prior to seeing the surgeon, I took the micro daily religiously. I believe that in the oncologist's heart, he was sure the cancer had spread. However, when I got the test results back from the PET scan, there was no evidence of cancer found. The surgeon was shocked. He found it very difficult to believe that the cancer was undetectable. He finally admitted that I had experienced a miracle. Next, I went back to follow up with the oncologist. He stated that these tests, such as the PET scan, are rudimentary and that the cancer must still be in my body. So, I had an MRI done a short time later. Either it would confirm that the cancer is still present or confirm that there was no traceable cancer left. After I had the MRI done, the doctor who read the MRI results put in the report that the previously detectable malignant tumor was no longer present and that there was no longer any evidence of any cancer on the scan. When I returned to the oncologist for the follow-up visit, he told me that somehow, I had experienced a miracle and that God, my God, Jehovah, must have helped me. So, I was free to go and no longer had to stay in jail. He simply recommended following up 6 months later to retest to confirm that the cancer was still untraceable in my body. I'm so thankful to the Creator, Jehovah, to a dear family member who kept searching to find something to help me, and to the 2 dear friends, Jonathan Jones and Bernard Dean, who introduced Micro Daily to me. I'm a living testimony that Micro Daily can really work for individuals diagnosed with breast cancer.
So Dr. Prasad,
That's really therapeutic dose he was taking it. Again, I'm very surprised that with that aggressive tumor, but again, the high dose, the therapeutic dose of anti doesn't care whether it's aggressive or non-aggressive, as long as they're dividing abnormally. That's they get signal. Oh, they rely more on a even slow-growing tumor. They rely more on glucose and glutamine for survival, and a therapeutic dose of antioxidant blocks them, so they die of starvation. So it is really, that's why even sometimes tumor become resistant to therapeutic agents, even at that later stage, because therapeutic dose antioxidant doesn't know whether resistant or sensitive to chemotherapy or radiation. They think it is a cancer cell. They need more glucose, more glutamine, and I'm going to block them. And that's why they do.
Right.
So they die of starvation rather than by anything else. And that's why it is independent of many other agents. Even with radiation, it will kill cancer cell. Well, they also help. They kill radiation and chemotherapy, killed by different mechanisms like generating free radicals and inflammation, which will kill both more cancer cell than normal cell, but normal cell gets also affected. But this says, no, I'm not going to produce free radical or radiation. I'm just going to starve cancer cell to death. And
Wow.
that's
So, Dr. Prasad, then you have just basically told us that whether it's cancer or aggressive cancer, it's the same thing.
yeah.
It still needs to eat. An aggressive one, a lazy cancer,
Let more.
is the one
They
that's-
need more.
So if you're nailing it down with high doses of antioxidant, it's not going to cure, treat, or heal, but the body will use that to basically starve off
Starve to
the
death.
eating
Yeah.
mechanism.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty remarkable, Dr. Prasad. So how do you feel when you hear a story like that one? I mean, because that's the first time that you've heard that one at all. So we've
Yeah,
never
this is the
related
first
that
time.
one to
Again,
you.
my the hair stands. I don't have any more hair, but I feel my hair stands on the edge because it is so exciting to see what you. Sometimes you read in an experimental system. Many times it doesn't happen to human,
Right.
but when it is happening in many cases, like in human, then you tend to believe that this could be real. But still, my goal is to perform a real placebo double-blind
Right.
trial eventually and
Right.
get it over from the FDA. That's my goal.
Right. Right. That would be a wonderful thing. She was told by her oncologist that she needed, I think it was like 16 rounds
Mhm.
of chemo, but she felt like that first, just that first brief moments was going to kill her. So that's why she chose to discontinue.
In some way, you can say that accident happened. Otherwise, if many times that kind of severity does not happen. And
Mhm.
so if it did not happen, she would not have thought of the alternative.
Right.
But it meant to be in her case, maybe it was a divine intervention. I don't know, that she said, okay, I'm not going to take it because it's so severe, compromise my life, I'd rather die.
Yeah.
Then she was looking for alternative, and you or, Bernard helped them to do it. So you deserve as much credit as anybody.